Okay, we're on. It's been a while since I've live streamed. Um, I did it on my other channel before. I have not live streamed on my normal channel, which that's what this is. And I decided to start live streaming because I just can't make any videos. And, whenever I do make a video, I'm always like disappointed with the editing. And so the easy way to be accountable and to just do it is, I mean, obviously to just do it. And that's what live streaming does, is it makes you have to do it. And there's no, you can't take back what you've uh, edited or anything. And even if what you say isn't perfect, it's not like, um, that's the problem with making videos, is that if you're a perfectionist, you can't ever like finish one. Or if you do finish one, you're not satisfied with it. And so, you know, when it comes to live streaming, um, there's no, you don't have to worry about being perfect and worry about making sure every single thing is exactly the way that you want it to be. So this is a method of being able to be okay with whatever it ends up being. And yeah, so that's kind of why I'm doing this right now. Um, the other thing that I really like about live streaming is you don't have to stick with a particular topic. You can kind of go all over the place. Um, that's why I like the uh, suggestion of asking the audience and those that are watching to ask questions, because you can go down all sorts of rabbit holes and it doesn't have to be a particular exact thing. So that's also one of the nice things about live streaming, is just the versatility and multiple directions you can go into. So yeah, that's kind of a uh, basic summary of why I'm doing this now. One of the difficulties in life, generally, for me, is um, when we're talking about accountability so that of doing things. Um, there's something about trying to hold yourself accountable to have a certain routine, and then there's a difference of somebody else um, kind of coming from the outside and saying, um, "Can you do this project?" or something like that. Then, for me, I'm absolutely happy to do whatever project it is. But on my own schedule, I don't make it a practice to uh, work on it myself. Like, to work on projects. And I'm kind of all over the place with all the subjects that I'm inclined towards and learning about. It's kind of all over the place. So, um, the difficulty is trying to channel all of that towards one specific goal. And so, the live streaming like setup is easier for those that are able to like answer all sorts of questions and not necessarily um, on one topic exactly. So the scatterbrain can actually be beneficial in the acquisition of general knowledge about all sorts of things. And at least that's what I try to hold on to as a strength of it. Um, Even though most of the time it seems to be a weakness. Because again, trying to focus on a specific task it seems better. Um, so anyway, I feel like that's enough on that. And so, I mean, I'm not even sure where to start. Um, I think I might start with what I was focused on earlier today. and that's basically, well, we'll get into it. So every once in a while, I really get interested in some old figure. Um, so for example, today I was thinking about Newton, and let's pull up the browser here. Um, and so I just looked up his main work, um, which is, hold on, I don't know what happened with this here. The main sometimes OBS does some weird settings, um, and it looks like they changed the position of this. Wow, that's way off. Um, okay, let me fix this real quick. Transform. Um, okay, here we go. So, oop, wrong direction. 45. I have to look at the pixels when I'm doing this. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Anyway, um, okay, so with the browser up here, um, okay, where was I? Newton. Yeah, so for some reason I was thinking about Newton and, oh, because of calculus. Sorry, this is a long story. I'm kind of going all over the place. Basically, there's this program called Brilliant where you can learn science and math, and I've been taking the calculus course, and I have no clue what I'm even being taught. I'm so lost. Seriously, I don't understand what's happening. Um, but anyway, so I looked up, because I didn't know what was happening. What does epsilon mean in calculus? And so it referenced Newton and Leibniz, um, the founders of calculus. And so what I was curious about is what is Newton's method of conveying his ideas? And so I went to Project Gutenberg, which is super helpful. I highly recommend this um, not program, this website. Super helpful for finding old books, um, which I like old books. That's why I use it. Um, and then Internet Archive is probably even more helpful. You can find all sorts of things that most people, uh, I mean, most websites, sorry. There is so much you can find on there that other people don't have on their programs, on their websites. Okay, so if you go to Project Gutenberg and then go to, I'm going to search Principia, which is Newton's book, famous book, or I guess most famous book. And then you see here they have multiple things. Okay, there we go. Found it. Well, that's Latin. Still learning Latin. Not going to be able to read that. Okay. So then they have options. You can download it, or you can just literally just read it online. I typically just read it online. If a book is worth keeping, I would probably download it. This is probably worth keeping. I just haven't really done that. So, alright. So, why am I here? I'm just going to the first paragraph that I read after the super long intro. It's literally like 70 pages. Okay, I'll just use the link. Because they have links to each. It's literally, okay, hold on. Yeah, look. They don't start until page 73. That's an insanely long intro. So, okay, so, then I looked at this about him talking about definitions, of certain things, and, it's interesting because at this point he's not using mathematical, like, he's not doing equations or anything. At some point he does, but anyway, so he talks about all sorts of things, and it honestly makes a lot of sense, and I haven't read through it a ton. Um, um, yeah, so what I'm curious about is the entirety of this uh, thing that Newton wrote. Is it as complex as it sounds in mathematical terms today? And at some point, he does go into specific proofs and stuff. And I think that what I'm interested in is how does the author himself reflect on reality? And the reason why that's an important question is because it's easy to come from the outside and look at a given subject and think, okay, it's way outside of my uh, head. Like I can't wrap my mind around this. And I'm sure that looking at his ideas will not really clarify calculus really for me. Maybe it will. I don't know yet. Um, I mean, because it's just super hard. But I'm wondering if looking at how the original, the person that came up with the original idea, how they analyzed a given subject, and if it probably is more common sense than some people realize it is. I don't know because I haven't read it. Like I've said like 100 times at this point. Um, so if I feel like a lot of the times the person that originally said something is going to be more relatable than when people come afterwards and um, especially with mathematics and then show a giant formula. Oh, here's calculus. Well, you missed everything else before that. And it's very helpful that what Newton starts with is definitions. That's super helpful. Like, if I'm going to be trying to study something, definition is so important. It's it's probably one of the most important things in conversations is definition. Otherwise, we don't have definition and we don't understand and we might be talking past each other. So, um, I my mind always tries to consider the primary text, primary being the first, and um, consider what they're saying in those. Like, I've done this with, um, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Pascal's Pensias, whatever it's called. And um, with Pascal's wager, looking at the original text is way more helpful than hearing a bunch of people either who are biased against it or even those who are biased for it. Whereas looking at the text itself helps us to have a balanced view of the subject. What seems to happen many times is that once people have come to a certain conclusion and interpretation of previous ideas, then they start spreading the result of the idea as the idea and not the idea itself. And so sometimes that's accurate. Sometimes it's right to show, okay, the consequences of this are so intertwined with the original idea that you can't really separate it, and it's fair to point at that. Um, and so the consequences of ideas are important to look at. Um, and then do help us to make conclusions about the ideas that lead to those other ideas and outcomes. But sometimes you mistake it. And so I guess one way to frame it is like the slippery slope argument. If we accept this, then this happens. Well, not every slippery slope idea is true. it's not always the case that we can perceive beforehand that this idea will lead to the next thing and the next thing. We don't have perfect knowledge about future things, unlike God, who does. Um, and so sometimes you can't really make that um, argument based on the slippery slope. And sometimes we're actually wrong, and this doesn't lead to that. And so I guess what I'm getting at is that trying to look at the initial sources helps us to understand whether or not those that are current proponents or opponents of these ideas, whether or not they're accurately describing their original ideas, and whether or not it is actually the case that they are saying such and such thing. And so, when looking at Pascal's wager, for example, um, it's super helpful to go back because there are caricatures today from opponents that really misunderstand what the wager is about. Um, I need to do a little bit more research on that specific topic on Pascal's wager, but that is an interesting topic that I might get into at some point. Um, and anyway, so that's that, and so that's what I was thinking about this morning, um, and I was just reading a little bit of Pascal, Pascal, Newton. Um, okay, so that's that. And then what I've been reading recently. Sorry, I sometimes need to take a breath or take a drink. Okay. So, let's figure out where I was. Where was I? Okay, yeah. What I've been reading recently. Okay. So now let me show you like my favorite website ever, which I brought up already. Okay, so archive.org. Their goal is to collect every bit of human knowledge into one database and archive it. I'm not sure that will ever happen, but I guess we can dream. And it's nice though because basically they've inherited everything that doesn't have a copyright is in the public domain, and so this includes books from over 100 years ago because it, from my understanding, 100 years is the cutoff after somebody, unless somebody renews the copyright, like somebody's son who inherited um, the the books of his father or something, he can renew it. You've seen this with when it comes to C.S. Lewis. Um, his son has the rights to his stuff, even though I guess C.S. Lewis isn't over 100 years ago, but uh, I don't know why I brought up C.S. Lewis as an example of that. But it does happen, just to clarify. It does happen that the son inherits what the father had, and so it's his duty to renew the copyright or not. Okay, so what was I gonna get at? Okay, so I have multiple collections here of books, but you can make your own collections, and it's super nice. Um, the first is just books. It's all of the items, and then a specific category, education, where I keep books on education, obviously. And so I've been really getting into the question of um, proper education, especially at the youngest years, because sometimes we look at the school years as something completely separate and different from the first couple of years of life. Um, and so trying to find a continuity between them is really important. And so the way that we analyze both sides of the educational spectrum, early years, then later years when they're in school, um, what we have to consider is how they learn. and what methods we need to employ so that they are able to learn more effectively. Um, and so, two of these books, Psychology and Parenthood by H. Eddington Bruce, from like 1916 is the book that the year that it's from, and then The Education of Carl Witt, or The Training of the Child, is from like way back then. Hold on, it's not from 1914. Um, it might be. I think it was published then. But we're talking about like events from 100 years before that, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong. Whatever. Um, but these two books, super helpful books. Um, I do find them super great. Um, this one, not as much as The Education of the Child, or The Education of Carl Witt, or The Training of the Child, as it's called. Um, the reason why I don't necessarily recommend this one as much, um, Psychology and Parenthood, is because I think there are some assumptions um, that H. Eddington Bruce has that I don't agree with. Um, I don't think that modern psychology, even at that point, is fully accurate. I think there's some false assumptions and mistakes that they make. But for the most part, it was good. Um, and one of H. Addington Bruce's main ideas is just like um, that education should start earlier than um, formal education should start earlier than the school years and initiated by the parents. And so, at some point in a specific chapter, he talks about three different men and how they trained their children. And the thing about these three examples is that all of their children were considered uh, excellent men of their time, excellent, intelligent, super smart. And so he goes through and explains the methods that they employed of teaching their kids, and it's very fascinating. It's very cool. Um, the one that stuck out to me the most was about Carl Witt, and I've shared this story so many times with people, but I might as well share again um, on this because it's just super cool, and I love it. So I wrote down a summary. Uh, might as well pull up. Okay. Um, Drive. EDU. Because it's about education. Alright. Wow, that's impossible to see. I'm sorry. Let me zoom in just so it's visible. Is that better? I hope that's better. Hold on, I gotta check. Because that might be super hard to see. Oh man, that is really hard to see. Maybe I have to zoom in again. It wasn't letting me zoom in. Okay. Okay, that's better. Um, oh, okay, that's way better. Okay. So, something I have never realized is that you can expand the window completely. So you don't get the top bar and stuff. So, this is super nice. Oh. Huh. I should have done this instead. Let me actually do that because these icons at the top are huge. Okay. Okay. Will this help? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's better. Alright. That's still not great. But just deal with it. Alright, gotta go down all the way to the bottom. Okay. So this is a basic summary of how Witt carried on the education of Carl. He focused on the capacity of language in his education. One of his main methods was to establish a connection of words and their objects by pointing to them and precisely naming them from the earliest age. This points to a main theme in Witt's teaching: precision and clarity. Um, Something that is a little bit controversial. Witt did not allow anyone to speak to Carl with baby talk, but required that they would speak only in precise and clear language. Um, Another thing, whenever the family traveled to places, any noteworthy things were explained to Carl. For example, if they were in a town that had a zoo, they would explain any relevant information of the animals, and if they did not know the relevant information, they would ask somebody that did, so that they all learned something in the end. And if Carl had um, any questions, Witt would attempt to answer them as best he could. And then there's also more things, just like the way that Witt did the education um, is um, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Um, okay. So one thing that Witt really focused on is trying to stoke the curiosity that's already in children at the youngest ages. Like them asking why constantly. Um, Not necessarily that question that he would continue to ask them to ask, but yeah, so one of his main things was he wants to build up that curiosity and that interest that children already have. And so he did that with Carl and uh, found great results in being able to carry on conversations with um, Carl, because even if Carl was not really acquainted with an idea, he would be able to think through it and ask relevant questions to come to the answer. So whether or not Carl had any clue what the discussion was about, he would ask the relevant questions in order to come to a right conclusion of what is being talked about. And so the idea is that even if Carl or a child doesn't necessarily have the means to come to the conclusion at this point, even, or because they've been trained to ask questions and ask good questions, not just any questions, good questions, well, there's still a growth, even if they don't come to a conclusion, or even if um, they're unable to really grasp it at this moment. The fact that they're trying to grasp it is what is important. And so that's something, an important idea to consider generally when it comes to education is um, asking questions may lead to answers. Sometimes it doesn't lead to answers, and that's okay. The fact that we're training this faculty of reasoning is good enough. And so that's kind of how Carl looked at, or, well, both of them are named Carl, but the older Witt thought about it is um, that he would learn by thinking. And so um, that's why he emphasizes so much clear language and stuff, because language is the way that we uh, express ideas. And so learning how to express those ideas well is very important. And learning the medium is so important. If you don't learn the medium, it's hard to really uh, express your vision. And So you have to learn the medium first. And one other, like, one other strength of doing that is that, one other strength of doing that is that in this example of Carl, of Witt's son Carl, he was able to learn other languages in early years because he already was well acquainted with the mother tongue, or with German in this case. And so, because he was able to speak in German fluently, his native language, he was then able to figure out um, how to learn other languages because he had a strong foundation in the language that he already knew. And so, because they focused so much on that education, he didn't have to take as much time to learn German. And so he was able to move on to other languages super quickly. And based on what the list that I found, he learned basically, I think, 5 languages before he was 10. And that's also an interesting thing to consider is the method for that. What Witt did is he took any of Carl's favorite books and he would find a translation in another language of that same book. So, because he was well acquainted with the book already in German, he was able to more easily grasp the foreign languages of in the same book. And so he learned Latin, Italian, French, um, other languages, because I said 5. Um, I don't remember how many or which ones. So anyway, that's a couple of things. Um, and so with the education consideration, or thinking through education, which has been my focus recently, um, my goal is to really break down and consider what their early years of development can look like. Because sometimes people don't know either what their child can learn in the first couple of years or like what their capabilities are. And so my goal is to really research what are the capabilities of the earliest years, because it appears to me that these men that had children that were considered like geniuses or really smart, they employed unconventional methods for teaching their kid. And one of the main things that they did is start at an early age with their educational attempts of trying to, I guess, I guess it is technically an experiment, but um, Witt had a conviction that this would work, that this method of teaching would be helpful. And so then he's, I guess, doing an experiment based on his convictions that this is actually going to be uh, come out with a good result. And so what you see is that they focus on the earliest years are the most formative when it comes to um, what their future will look like, and um, what uh, it will affect their future ability to understand. And so starting at that age is really important. It's important to start with a good, uh, start right away with your intention to raise them up. And that's what these men did. And it seems to have worked in at least 3 examples, because that's the 3 that H. Eddington Bruce gave. So, yeah, that's what I've been focusing on, like, the last 2 weeks has been the question about education and how kids learn and stuff like that. And so, what that's kind of brought me down is a rabbit hole, as it were, and it's led me to consider other methods. The Montessori method is about Maria Montessori from like the beginning of the 1900s. And then John Dewey, who, um, if anyone's acquainted with education, he's probably one of the biggest names. Um, so I'm considering his ideas, and like I'm going to make a response at some point, I think, to his ideas, because I think there is some either misunderstanding of his ideas, or just better clarification that I think can be brought to it. And then um, I think I'll talk about this next time, about Logos. Super helpful. Um, I do my Bible reading on Logos. Um, Logos. Um, Here's that. I guess I will pop it up if it will open. Sometimes it doesn't open automatically. Actually, it like never does, so. Okay. Hold on. Where is it? I accidentally minimized it. Okay. Okay, so this is a super helpful program. If you haven't heard of it, um, research of Bible stuff, super easy with this program. Like I said, I do my reading on it. It's great. And so I have a whole host of notes that I've been taking for like 3 years at this point. Um, and one of these live streams, what I'm going to do is start to consider some of the old notes and look at them. But, I mean, we're talking from 3 years ago. And so, what my idea is to start from beginning to end, and, like, considering different questions. So, let me actually just do one, because it's not too difficult to look at. Okay, so what we need to do here is do just Bible books. So reference Bible, and then it has start to finish of from beginning. So I guess we can look at my first question. So links right to it. Super nice. Okay. So first question, and this is going to be a tough one. I don't know why I started here. I'll try. And it's a question. Why is the phrasing oh, I need to go to the original, because otherwise it will not be as clear as what the question is. One more. Alright. So this is RSV, which is where I took the note. Okay. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separate. Okay. I don't have verse numbers. I need verse numbers, so I know where to stop. Oh, yeah. Reformat is the... Okay. So actually, we should start with the question, not with the text. Okay. So the question is, why is the phrasing different than the other days? There was versus God made. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, one day. And then to see the contrast of, and there was light. And God said, "Let there be a firmament." And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and separated the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and there was evening, and there was morning, a second day. Okay, so we see some common language here. And God said, let there be something. So, let there be light. And God said, let there be something, a firmament, in the midst of the waters. And then, so God speaks, then God makes, and there was light, and God made the firmament, and then God sees, what? I thought it said, and God saw that it was good in every single, and God saw that the light was good. And God made the firmament, and separated the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above. And God called the firmament heaven. And there was evening, and there was morning, a second day. Okay, hold on. Is this just a RSV thing? Okay. So, the first time he says, and he saw that it was good. And then, does the third one? The third one says it. The second one doesn't. The fourth one says that God saw that it was good. Let's look at the fifth one. The fifth says that it was good. The sixth says it. And oh, am I miscounting? I might be miscounting. Okay, fifth. I might have been miscounting. That might be why I'm getting confused. So, the first one we looked at. Yeah, weird. Day 2, he does not say, and he saw that it was good. I don't know what that means. That's another question. Why does it say that? I don't know. I'll add that, actually, because that is an interesting question. I'm not going to consider that today. Highlight. And then over here, I have notes. So, you hit this. Oh, you can't see it. And then, I'm just going to write down the question. Okay. So, why... Oh, me typing is slowing down the computer. Is that how you spell omit? I might be off. Wow, it's amazing how slow this makes everything. That's super weird. It's possible that it's not like anything like significant, like, oh, the author intends to say this without saying it, and I'm not sure that that's like that it was. It might not be anything like that the author is intending to say through this, but it is an interesting question to consider if there is a reason, and that's what we have to do many times. with questions like these is just, first of all, consider, is the author trying to tell us something? And then after we've really wrestled with the question, then we may come to a conclusion. Okay, the author isn't intending to really give us a message or something. It's just that's what they wrote, and there's no reason why he left out that it was good other than he did. So that's one way of looking at it. The other way, like I said, is to consider, do they mean something by it? And that's a possibility. So let's consider the first question I had. And this is from years ago. Let's see. Should tell me. Where is it? I'm surprised it's not showing me. Also, I don't know what these words mean. What is happening? I don't know what is C? Oh, okay. Weird. Okay, let's see. I don't know why it does. Oh, okay. 1 year ago. I guess it wasn't super long ago. Okay. So the question, why does the phrasing different? There was. So first we're gonna just consider it, and then I might look at a commentary. So, unfortunately, with the interlinear, the words are out of order, which sometimes is bothersome. But let's see if there's any significant difference in Hebrew, which I don't understand Hebrew. I'm just trying my best. But it's super helpful to have Logos and have the tools, even if I don't understand it. Okay. I don't even know how to pronounce these. So, there's this letter. Wa. Guessing this is Elohim. I don't know the word for said. Yamer? That might be it. That symbol, God said, be light, and there was. Okay, so, and, wa, it came to pass. Yahi? Is that right? Hold on. I don't know how to pronounce that. Yahi. I'll just guess that. Okay, and then there was light. Okay. And then let's look at the second day for comparison. Okay. Same construction. Wa Elohim. Yamer. Let there be firmament. Let it separate. Okay. And it was so. And it came to pass. And it was so. Oh. And God made is what we were looking for. I don't know why I'm getting so confused. Well, probably because I'm looking at an interlinear. Okay. Look at the question again. Why is the phrasing there was versus God made? Okay. So. God said, let there be, and there was. God said, let there be, and God made. God, yeah, Yas. Yash? I don't know. Something. But then it does say, and it was so. And it came to pass. Is that the same word, isn't it? So, it could simply just be a matter of something. I'll explain what I mean in a second. And it was so. Yeah, it looks like it's the same. So, it does appear there, and I think if we look at the third day, we should just double check. And God said, and it was so. Okay. So, it looks like there's no really difference other than there's no extra discussion about God making something else on that same day. Because it really just goes into more detail in the other texts as to what God is doing. So, I mean, it might just be that. Just a matter of, okay. Since both say, and it was so, and there was light, you see? And it was so, and it came to pass. He, or. And then, if we look at, and it was so, wa, Yehi, Ken. Say, hold on. In the same manner? I don't know. I don't know if that is significant. Okay, but it looks like it does say in it was, and there was, in a similar construction. So it's not a matter of really there being a difference. It's just more the second day expresses God doing different things with the firmament differently. So it has the declaration, then it has some more detail of what God is doing when he's making it. And then there's the ending statement. Okay, and it was so. God's doing all this stuff, and then it was. And then he calls it, and there's evening, and there's morning a second day. Honestly, not that confusing. Let's just run over it one more time just to clarify what the question was. Okay, original question. Why is the phrasing different than the other days? Answer: it isn't different. There was versus God made. There's not a contradiction between those terms. In fact, it's just stated at a different point. It does say and there was in day one, and it says that and it was so, which is similar wording in the second day and the preceding days, as far as I can tell. And so the phrasing isn't different. The one has more, goes into more detail about what God is doing when he's making it. The other one doesn't use the word make because it doesn't describe him making it in the same way. So that seems to be just the answer. And so I guess we might as well just add the answer to the note here. I'm so glad I did this. This is great to consider. Answer. Awesome. And this is a year ago. So we're answering this. Both days. Well, we were comparing only like 3 days. Both day 1 and 2 use a similar similar construction. And I can't type Hebrew. I'll try copying it. So it's a wa. It's out of order. I have to find the text online then. Let's open browser. Alright. Pull this up here. I don't know why it's automating to Logos. No. Why? That's weird. For some reason, it's not letting me pick it. I don't get it. There we go. Goodness sake. Alright. We're looking for Genesis 1. Hebrew. We don't want interlinear, we just literally want the Hebrew construction. Oh. This doesn't have it. Why? Is there... And they read from right to the left. Go back. Why? It's annoying. Okay. I gotta remember, right to left. Right to left. And it was so is what we're looking for. Is that verse 2? Let's go to verse 2. And the earth was. Oh. This formless and void. Okay. Is it verse 3? I can probably look. I'm too lazy to go back. Okay. And said, let there be light. And there was light. Oh. Okay, it might be different. Why he? Or way he? It's confusing. Okay. This is not helping. I don't know how to read Hebrew. Whatever. I'll just claim that it's the same construction and not provide any support for it in the note. It's not like I really need to answer. And there was, and it was. So. There was. It was so. You don't put the period on the inside of the quote? Okay. I don't think. Day 2 includes extra info. And in that context, I have to use the on-screen keyboard if you didn't gather that. Includes info, more info. Which is what the phrase was referencing. The referent, I think is the right term. That's not how you spell it for sure. Of, I don't think that's how you spell it, but whatever. The phrase. It's crazy how this changes the frame rate. Well, not frame rate, just the quality. Almost there. Perfect. Okay, so that is the answer to the question. Both days use the same, similar construction when it says that everything that God declares is made. And the phrasage is, and it was so. And there was. Similar in Hebrew. So that seems to be the answer. That there's no contradiction among those phrases in the days. Okay. Thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate your guys' viewership. I'm probably going to turn this into a couple of videos. We'll see. That's one of the things that I've considered doing after doing these live streams. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe, and talk to you next time. Sorry. Excuse me.